Hi, so you're watching Dead Press. I'm here with Jamie Lenman.
Hello.
Manchester date of your UK tour for the Devolver album.
That's right.
Great. It's the third day.
Yes.
How have the past two dates been? Because I think it was Glasgow and Newcastle.
Yeah, they were both fantastic. Newcastle was particularly surprising because I hadn't been there ever as a solo act.
Yeah.
And I hadn't been there since I was in the band for maybe about 12 years. No, about 10 years. And there were still people there.
That's what you want. You want people there.
Pleasant surprise. And then Glasgow, I go there every weekend. That was sold out, that was round, that was really great. They're both great shows, good vibes. And now we're in Manchester, which is another good city for me. So,
awesome.
Really looking forward to it, yeah.
Great. Like we were saying before, it's part of the Devolver album. How have you been finding the reception? Because that came out in October, right? Yep.
It's been brilliant. People have had time to get used to the songs and they know them well, which is what I wanted. I wanted to, you can't go on the road with like a really hot off the press album. But equally, I don't like it when acts go on the road with a new record. However, even if people have had it for a little while and played just all in the new record and like none of the oldies, that's terrible. So it's sort of half and half. I think it's like half off the new record and then half oldies. Yeah. And reception's been really great. Even the deep cuts, the single always go down well. Even the odd deep cut gets a big reaction, so I'm really pleased.
Great.
Yeah.
And then your previous album was Muscle Memory.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like you had the split of really aggressive metal, and then you had more the folksy acoustic side. Whereas this album's got a lot more textures and layers to it.
Yeah.
Was it a bit more refreshing to have more of a kind of more streamlined sound as opposed to these two juxtaposition styles? Yeah,
I don't know about refreshing, but it was what I wanted, to streamline things and go back to. Well, that's why I called it Devolver, because at the time I thought it was just going back a bit. Similar to what I used to do, but now when you hear it, I think, oh, actually, it does represent a progression in the sound, in the writing and in the instrumentation. So that was what I was after, and I think we achieved it. And a lot of people have said, some people have even said, that it's even more eclectic than Muscle Memory. So I think, bloody hell, fair enough. But as long as they like it, I suppose that doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the main riffs on the song I Don't Know Anything.
Yeah.
I noticed that's from, you used it a few years prior on the Reuben DVD.
Yeah.
Did you have any other parts on the record that you kind of unearthed from years prior and you rehashed them, revived them?
Yeah, whenever I write anything, it sort of goes in the pot and bubbles away for a long, long time. So whenever one of my records comes out, either with Reuben or on my own, there's always parts from way back before. Muscle Memory had some parts. The main riff from the song Muscle, I was writing when we put out Pilot. So
that long ago,
it predates even all the Reuben albums, and the same was true with this. It's only I Don't Know Anything that goes back quite as far as Reuben days. But there was some tracks, that I'd written during the Muscle Memory sessions that didn't quite go on. Yeah. And then a lot that I'd written in the interim, and then a couple that I wrote while we were recording it. So it always goes back very far. But I Don't Know Anything is the oldest one on. Right. Well, with the oldest origins. I still had to sort of finish the end of it, but yeah.
Great. And then not long after the album, you did your Lenmania All Dayer.
Yeah.
I think you said on stage that the initial idea of Lenmania started out as a bit as a joke.
Well,
conversation.
I mean, the title was a joke.
Right.
Yeah, the All Dayer was always something that I was keen to do, but it was called like Lenfest. In the emails between you and the management or whatever.
These bounce-back names.
And then at one point it became Lenmania, and it was like, and then they were like, we need a poster.
Yeah.
I was like, and I put that on the poster, and it just stuck. I think it's quite a good name, actually.
Yeah.
It's sort of, because we wanted it to be like all about me, obviously, because it's my record, my fucking head on the poster. But I think even putting my head on the poster like that sort of clued people into the fact that, like, well, obviously he's taking their piss a bit. I try not to take myself too seriously. So I hope that by calling it Lenmania, people thought, oh, that's a bit of a...
People kind of got the gist of that.
Yeah,
that was
it was like, what could you call it that would... Dave Lenman or something like really like... I think Lenman Fest even would have been a bit like, come on, mate, but Lenmania is like a funny thing. I hope.
Yeah. When did it become just from ideas to evolving into something that was actually going to happen? How did that kind of...
Very quickly,
Yeah.
because we thought, well, we need to do something around the record and we don't want to do a tour. And then you need to book these things quite quickly in advance. So, yeah, within a couple of weeks of talking about it, we suddenly had to book lots of bands and it got a bit frantic. It's tough to put together, man.
Yeah.
You know, and my agent quite rightly said, look, I book bands, not festivals. And I was like, yeah, but maybe just book a band and then book a few more.
Yeah. It's basically a gig, just longer.
It's a long gig, but it was tough to put together and everyone worked very hard, yeah.
Is there plans to bring it back this year, or...?
I don't know. I mean, people always bring it up. People like, as soon as people get something they like,
They want more.
they want it again.
Yeah.
They go again, and you're like, oh, fuck's sake. And so, I don't know. As soon as it was finished, everyone was like, right, when's the next one? I was like, steady on. So it was never supposed to be like a rolling thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised either way. If we never did it again, still a cool thing that happens. If we did it every year, it fills me with dread, but I wouldn't be surprised, you know.
Just see what happens, basically.
See what happens,
Roll with
yeah.
the punches.
Yeah.
And then on stage, you just had your balloons in the back spelling out Lenmania.
Yeah.
If budget wasn't an issue, ideally, what kind of stage show would you want for an all-dayer like Lenmania when you go on stage?
Listen, them balloons are pretty expensive. I don't know. I mean, are you talking about like set dressing or
like a pyro?
No, fuck all that.
Confetti.
No, I can't stand all that. I can't stand
Fly
all
around
that.
like Kiss.
Well, no, I might have had a bit of confetti because there's some confetti in that video, isn't there? I
Yeah,
thought maybe
yeah.
that might be nice. No, I mean, it wasn't a very big venue anyway. I've always said, and this is going to come back to bite me in the arse. You interview me in 10 years, and I've got like a giant skeleton coming on.
or your Dalek coming onto stage.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
If you people who have like pyro and whatnot, and they're playing stadiums, they would say, look, you need that to fill the huge space.
Yeah.
And there is some logic to that, but I would always say, all you really need to fill that huge space is the great song.
Yeah.
Or 10. And so maybe that's what a poor man would say. You can't afford pyro, and maybe it is just an excuse, and we'll find out, won't we? But I don't think I could go like Inflatable Satan. If you gave me all of the money in the world, I'm not sure what I would do.
No. You wouldn't have like Eddie like Iron Maiden have?
No,
or...
I might have some like glittery bingo curtains.
What else do you need?
What else do you need? A couple of balloons, but we had some balloons, maybe not enough. Yeah. Maybe a bit of confetti. I could have done some of that, yeah.
Great. And then in terms of your live setting as well, as we're on the subject, you've kind of reduced it from it's just you and your drummer,
Yeah.
Dan. And then obviously before with Muscle Memory you had the heavy mellow band, and then you also did that one run where you had the string section, like a kind of like the big band thing.
Yeah, the brass section, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, was the idea of it just being like a two-piece for this run, was that kind of like part of the devolving thing? Because you've gone back, you've kind of stripped it down a bit.
Maybe. Do you know what I think? I think it was really, now you've asked me again, and I've answered this question a lot because people are fascinated by it. I always try to give, I don't try to give a different answer because that would imply that I'm not telling you the truth every time.
Yeah.
I do try and, I think about it afresh every time I'm asked it, which is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And now you've asked me again, literally just talked about this downstairs and I told him something different, but they're all true. I think it was a measure of confidence because when you said then that I went out initially with the 4-piece band and then I stepped up to a 7-piece band, really, I think what I was doing then was hiding behind those people, those other members of the band, and saying, sort of trying to distract people from me and saying, look, fucking brass section at a metal show, how about that?
Yeah.
Yada-da-da. And I've not thought this before, but now we're talking about it, I think perhaps it might be, amongst many other practical concerns and artistic concerns, I think it's because I'm more comfortable saying, look at me this time, and I don't have as many people around me distracting you from me. I'm quite comfy or comfier with the spotlight being on me and wearing white. If you look at all the symbolism, I'm happy with people looking my way. So maybe that's a big factor that I've just got happier doing it. I don't have to hide behind as many people.
Yeah. And how do you feel about, because in terms of Muscle Memory, you just put it out there. This time you've got you had the full album campaign leading up to the album.
Yeah.
And I think that's the first time you've done that since 10 years prior with In Nothing We Trust.
Yeah.
How, if you look at it for the 10 years, from that album campaign to this one, what do you think's kind of changed the most in the music industry in terms of pushing that album out there?
Well, the idea of a pre-order which was being talked about when we did Nothing We Trust, and we thought we could, the crowdfunding wasn't quite there yet, but we'd heard that some bands had encouraged their fans to pre-order the album. I'm not sure we were very convinced about that. Well, obviously we didn't do it, we did our own label and it got us. But listen, that company closed in the black, so the worst things could have happened.
Yeah.
But the pre-order thing wasn't quite there yet, and I think it would have helped that band if we could have got it together. That would have been an interesting direction to go down. And I think obviously the internet was just sort of starting to change music at that point. A little bit too late for us. I think we could have harnessed crowdfunding. Not that this album's crowdfunding, but by asking people to prepay, to pre-order.
You're already preempting like a crowd coming in, aren't you?
Yeah, and it gives you the security, and you know what you could do with it. And if only 2 people had pre-ordered, we'd be like, well, maybe we'll do the video on a camcorder, But we knew we had the money there already, which is important. It was also nerve-wracking because people were paying for something that they didn't have yet.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to make sure that I delivered. Whereas with Muscle Memory, I had it first, and then you heard it, and then you bought it.
Yeah.
So it was a completely different way to do it. I liked them both, but again, that was probably a measure of confidence in that I wasn't sure how anyone would tackle Muscle Memory.
Yeah.
So I just said, here it is, make of it what you will. Whereas, with Devolver, we had a year-long drum roll. Brrr, you ready until the cymbal clash in October. So I liked them both, but I think obviously the internet has had a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
And I hope people enjoyed the pre-order campaign. I think it got a good response, so I think they did.
There's a big change in the social media as well, because I think when Reuben kind of, died down, that was like when MySpace also went, and now you've got things like Facebook, Instagram, Periscope, and all these other things.
You've made that one.
I've not made that one.
No, I'm 35. Jesus, all right.
After we're done here, you Google.
No, I'm not going
to. No. So you kind of touched on it a minute ago, but do you think nowadays, obviously you're on a label, you're on Big Scary Monsters, but do you think bands, like a label is a necessity, as it was back in the day?
It's a necessity for some things.
Yeah.
You don't need a label to be heard anymore. The internet will sort that for you on SoundCloud or Facebook or whatever, but maybe you need a label sometimes to be visible. Because there's so many people, and you want to say, you don't want to say listen to me instead of them.
Yeah.
You want to say listen to me as well as them. And a label will help you to do that because they know all the channels, and they know the distributors, and they know the music collectives, and they've got people. They're there as a hub of directions. They stand at the middle, and there's all these different directions they can go. Well, we'll do it like this, and we'll do it like that. Which bands don't have. That's not the band's business to worry about.
Yeah.
Bands concentrate on making the music and playing good. And it's the labels to say, well, this is the places we can channel this for you. And I think that's what a label is good for.
Yeah.
And if you find a label that is really invested in your music, like BSM, they're fantastic, then great. And then what has happened with this album will happen for you. And I think this album has been a lot more visible than my previous one. So I think labels are important. And often, no one's got any money anymore, but labels sometimes have got a bit, down the back of the sofa, and they'll lend you that to add a bit more oomph to your campaign, to make you a bit more visible, make you a nice video or whatnot, or and then they're also good for filling all those forms as well.
Yeah.
If you want to put your record out, you can press your record yourself, you can put it into shops, but you have to fill in a lot of forms. And again, that's not something the band really wants to be worrying about.
All the admin side of things, basically.
Admin.
Yeah.
Band's not, a guitar ain't got a typewriter on it, and there's a reason. And I discovered that when I was running my own label, and it nearly killed me, and it killed my band. And I thought, fuck that. But labels, they know all about that. You give it to them, they'll sort it for you. So I think labels do have a place, yeah. Maybe not quite the same place that they had 20 years ago, but I think they do still serve a vital function, yeah.
So do you think, because you touched on it before as well, because you did, Hideous Records happened, do you think you would ever have gone down the crowdfunding route for this album, for Devolver, or was it always...
We talked about it because, it's not fashionable, but it is prevalent, and it is an established route.
Yeah.
There's no reason why we couldn't have, because what we did with the pre-orders was very similar to a crowdfunding campaign, but we just had the funds available to just do it straight off, and we thought, well, there's no real There was no need to.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't rule it out. And like I say, I think the pre-order campaign we did came very close to how potential crowdfunding might work.
Yeah.
And it sort of introduced me to it, because I'd never crowdfunded anything. It introduced me to that sort of process. So yeah, never say never.
Cool. You also recently got announced to join the lineup for Download this year.
Yeah.
You looking forward to it?
Yeah, love going to Download. Been playing Download since it started, I think. One of the very first Downloads. It's quite a new thing, isn't it? It was Donington for donkeys, and then
Yeah. I think it was like Monsters of Rock or something. It was called.
Right. Yeah.
And then they renamed it Download.
Cool. Hey kids, Download. A cool name. But kids still download, don't they? It's still relevant, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, I thought at the time, that's a bit like calling your band co.uk, which one of my favourite bands did. And then like, how's anyone going to search for that on the internet?
Or call yourself Google. You can't Google, can you? Like.
Right. But Download, no, it's still a good name actually, Download. Anyway, love it. Yep. And they always have me along to play.
Yeah.
I'm always chuffed to be there, because it's, it's a big festival. Everyone wants to go to Download. Everyone talks about Download. So yeah, I'm chuffed. I'm excited to go back.
Awesome. And what else is planned for 2018 for you? 'Cause, it's the start of the year now, so...
Is it the start of the year?
Start of the year.
I feel like
February
I'm
now.
years old. Is this going to ruin your audio?
It should be alright, we're almost done.
Okay.
We'll see.
Yeah, well, we're going to go, after this tour is finished, we're going to go to Europe with Arcane Roots, supporting them for a few dates, which would be nice.
That's cool.
And then we got Download and maybe a couple of other festivals. And we might go back out to Europe to do some festivals over there. I don't know, we're still sort of working it out.
Yep.
And then we're into the autumn, and I don't really know too much past then. I'm just sort of concentrating on these shows at the moment, yeah.
Just seeing what pans out, basically.
Yeah, well, we'll have, at some point when I come back up the tour, we'll have a sit down with the management of the label and go, right, what are we doing? But at the moment, I'm just concentrating on these shows, yeah.
Cool. And any final words before we wrap up? You can say whatever you want now.
Be excellent to each other.
Very excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.